A young woman is frightened out of her speech.
A curfew was used to prevent a revolution.
A mailman throws away 200 letters.
Each one of those statements is true, and this is also true. This is Lindsay McCarry back with another session of Can You Imagine That? And asking you to wait for just 1 minute and a half until we come back to prove those statements. Yes, we're back again, friends. I told you we'd prove the statements we made just a short while ago, and here's the proof of the first. Everyone has heard the old expression, I was frightened out of my wits. Well, here's an odd little item which goes that saying one better. It happened on February 18, 1937, in Newark, New Jersey. Miss Sophie Fleischer of 503 South 17th Street set out from her home on her way to a building and loan association to collect an interest check. It wasn't long after that her mother, attending a meeting in a restaurant, was approached by an excited friend.
Mrs. Fleischer, your daughter Sophie is...
Sophie? What's wrong? What's the matter? What is it?
She ran into the Lyceum Hall just a minute ago screaming for you. We don't know what's wrong, but she can't use her right arm at all.
Sophie, oh, take me to her.
Sophie Fleischer was taken home, and there the doctor discovered...
It seems she's partly lost the use of her vocal cords and the use of her right arm.
But, Doctor, I don't understand. She was all right a few minutes before I...
Oh, no, there, Mrs. Fleischer. There. Sophie'll be all right. She's had an experience that caused her severe fright. Resulting hysteria has deprived her temporarily of the full use of her vocal cords and right arm. She'll be all right if left alone and quiet.
But, Dr. Nash, there was nothing to frighten her. Nothing at all. Well, I saw her on the street just a few minutes before I was told about her.
Well, her purse was gone. Perhaps she was robbed. The experience gave her severe fright and shock. Sophie has literally been frightened out of her speech and into a partial paralysis of the right arm.
As it turned out later, Sophie had not been robbed. She had lost her purse. And the ending? Well, we haven't been able to find the name of the person of whom Diogenes would have been proud, but the purse was returned intact, and we have the doctor's word for it that Sophie would recover. But Miss Fleischer was literally frightened out of her speech. Can you imagine that? By the way, did you know that our word curfew has an interesting history? It comes from the Norman French. Today, the word means the cessation of activities for the day. Many towns still have a 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock curfew, whatever the time may be, but in the days of the Norman French, sometime after William the Conqueror had subdued England, his Norman barons had established themselves as rulers. We may imagine a scene like this. The place, just outside the farm of a Saxon peasant. The time, late evening.
Aye, bad times for the Saxon under the Norman, dog.
Well, this very afternoon, 5 of my best acres were taken as part of the Barondois hunting forest. Is there no way out of this bondage?
Aye, there is a way. There is a way.
Revolution?
Aye.
Well, that's dangerous, Derwell.
Dangerous? Perhaps, but we were conquered by the sword. What matter if we die or free ourselves by the sword?
True enough, but could we get enough men?
Every Saxon in England bends under the Norman yoke. Every farm is taxed and retaxed until a man must steal to feed the mouths of his wife and children. Death would be better and we...
There's your answer, Derwell. Your cursed bell that means we must all go to our homes.
Aye. How can we rouse the people if we are not allowed to talk or to gather in groups after a certain time of the evening?
Hush. The guard. The Norman
Ye
guard.
Saxons!
Aye, we hear. What is it?
Ye know well enough, Saxon pigs. The couvre-feu has rung. Put out the fire and go to your homes.
Give us time, Norman. Give us time.
Enough talk, Saxon. Put out the fire and to your homes. And see to it that no lights show within your cottages, or we'll put them out for you, with you.
Cursed Normans, a cursed curfew.
There, Norman, the fire is out.
Then go to your homes, each to his own. And mind you, there are no gathering in groups, for if you do, the sword will soon split your little gatherings. Now go.
Thus did our word curfew come from the Norman French words couvre-feu, C-O-U-V-R-E-F-E-U, meaning a bell that was rung as a signal for peasants to go to their homes and put out all fires and lights. It was an effective method of preventing mutinous and rebellious gatherings. The Saxons had difficulty pronouncing the Norman French words, and gradually the words became corrupted into the easier-to-say curfew, C-U-R-F-E-W. Well, strange were the ways in which the early colonists made their business deals with the American Indians. Strange? Well, strange to us now, perhaps, but we must remember that in making purchases or sales, those redskins knew nothing of quarts or pints, yards or inches, bushels or pecks, acres or townships. The colonists had to rely upon their imaginative powers to create terms of measurement. For instance, in 1682, William Penn bought a tract of land from the Delaware Indians, a tract which has since become the counties of Bucks and Northampton in the state of Pennsylvania. How was Penn going to designate the size of the tract? By acres? By square miles? Certainly not. His copper-colored friends would never have understood those terms. But the solution was simple. They agreed to bound the tract on the east by the Delaware River and inland as far as a man could walk in 3 days. Master Penn and the Indians began walking, starting from the mouth of the Neshoning Creek. By the end of a day and a half, though, Penn decided he had enough land, or maybe enough walking, for in that time he had covered the incredible distance through untracked forest of 40 miles. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the manner in which William Penn purchased his land. Can you imagine that? Incidentally, this transaction has come to be known as the walking purchase. But the famous walker Edward Payson Weston could have really bitten off a chunk of territory if he had negotiated the walking purchase. At the age of 28, in the year 1867, Weston made his longest trip on foot in 1 day as a part of his tour from Portland, Maine to Chicago, Illinois. In that 1 day, he traveled 82 miles. Can you imagine that? Here's an odd news story that will command sympathy and understanding from all those who use their legs and feet all day. Salespeople, door-to-door solicitors, meter readers, census takers, policemen, and others who make their living by making their legs and feet work. In the early part of the year 1937, postal authorities in the Sheepshead Bay district of Brooklyn were heckled and annoyed by continuous calls from people along a certain mail route. The callers were one in their stories. They said,
Look here, this is the second day I've had no mail. Now, I'm expecting some important letters.
All right, yes, we're checking into it.
Well, I wish you would.
Thank you. That's the 15th one today from the Sheepshead Bay district.
Yeah, I know, but we ought to get it cleaned up soon. There's an inspector trailing the mailman on the route.
The inspector trailing the mailman did his job thoroughly, and finally, he saw his quarry disappear toward an incinerator. The inspector hurried up and...
Hey, what you doing here?
I'm caught, huh?
Hey, good night, man. What's the idea? Well, you're throwing over 200 letters into that incinerator. Hey, you're crazy. Come on, I gotta take you... Come on now.
And so the mailman was taken in and charged. Specifically, the charge was that he had failed to deliver one letter. And his defense? Listen.
Defense? Well, I guess I gotta have one. It's my feet hurt.
His feet hurt. Can you imagine that? Well, now for the moment, let's forget about mailmen, curfews, and whatnot, and delve into the musical portion of this session of Can You Imagine That? We've told you some stories of musicians getting their inspiration from dogs, from the brooks and the streams, from the women they loved, in fact, from every source. But sometimes we wonder how the tunesmiths of Tin Pan Alley got their inspirations for their musical creations. Just a short time ago, or on one of these programs, we showed you how numerous compositions were built on the tonic chord of do, mi, sol, do, or, from its variation, the bugle call. Well, for our musical oddity this time, we've dug out a popular tune of some years back. You all know it, but we're not going to tell you its name right away. Instead, we'll imagine from what its composer might have taken his inspiration. Perhaps he hearkened back to the days in the little red schoolhouse when he sat at a wooden desk and listened to the schoolmarm tap out the rhythm while he and the rest of the children sang their scales. Or he might have been sitting near the window on a warm night and heard the young lady a few doors away limbering up her vocal cords like this. Aha! Inspiration. Change the time a little, add a note here and there, and... And he had the beginnings of a song. Do you recognize what it is? Of course. Go to the head of the class. It's On Miami Shore.
On the golden sands of old Miami shore, there I always find the boy whom I
And now, this is Lindsay McCarry turning you back to your own station announcer and saying, until the next time we meet, goodbye now.
A man compiles a dictionary of chimpanzee language.
Cinderella did not wear a glass slipper.
A cross of gold brings disaster to many men.
Can you imagine that? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is Lindsay McCarry speaking. I'm back with my charts and another collection of odd and sensational facts with which to regale you for a while. In just 1 minute and a half, we'll all be back with the proof of the statements made a moment ago. So wait for us, will you please? Well, that's a strange noise, isn't it? But don't be alarmed. No one here has suddenly gone to chasing imaginary dinosaurs around the studio. What you heard was Charles Fuller saying he's glad to see us. And who is Charles Fuller? Well, according to a newspaper of March 6, 1915, Charles Fuller was a chimpanzee who could talk so that his owner, E.W. Knowlton of Pasadena, California, could understand him. Can you imagine that? Said Mr. Knowlton when interviewed.
I have lately been making a dictionary of the words I found Fuller uses. So far, I have found 6 distinct words. No doubt there are others, but these 6 I have identified positively. Each one is said on precisely the same sort of occasion. I think this proves that monkeys of the higher orders can converse among themselves. That they can think is already proved. But listen for yourself. Fuller? Fuller? That means he's hungry. He wants something to eat.
And that wasn't all Charles Fuller would say. Here are a couple more of the phrases in his vocabulary. That, according to Mr. Knowlton, meant I am afraid. And then? In chimpanzees, that is go away and don't bother me. We have Mr. Knowlton's word that Charles Fuller could sew, untie knots, and untwist a swing when the rope got tangled up. But other chimps had done that before. What made Charles Fuller unique was the fact that his vocabulary could be understood by his owner. Can you imagine that? Well, now comes the time for our fairy tale class. Today's story is that of Cinderella and the fur slipper.
Pardon, teacher. Glass slipper.
Fur slipper.
Glass.
It's still fur, and I'll prove it for you.
Glass.
All right, sit in the corner, and I'll explain. You see, the story of Cinderella is of French origin. When the translator took the story and began his work of translation, he made a very odd but still a natural mistake for anyone not working in his native language. In the original French version, the slipper is referred to as pantouflon vert, meaning a slipper made of fur. V-A-I-R is the French word for fur. The translator was more familiar with the actual sound of the word vert than he was with its meaning. He wrote the word down as V-E-R-R-E, meaning glass. So we today, because of a translator's odd mistake, know the pretty little fairy tale as Cinderella and the glass slipper instead of Cinderella and the fur slipper. Can you imagine that? Well, there are countless stories about the evil that follows famous jewels, about the bad luck they bring to each successive owner. The Hope Diamond, for instance, has a history crowded with deaths of tragic episodes in the lives of its owners. Along that line, I dug up a story that has all the character of melodramatic fiction, with the added punch of being true. From a newspaper dated July 8, 1929, comes an item saying that the curse of the cross has been set at rest. The cross is really the Mount of the Holy Cross that nestles in the heart of the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. And the curse? Well, listen to this. In 1873, members of the Hayden Geological Survey Party were exploring in that particular region of the Rockies. As they went on, they became more and more awed by the grim grandeur of the scene before them. And then, suddenly...
Wait! Wait down there!
What's the matter?
Look!
What?
Look at that. Just look at it.
Why, a mountain must be over 10,000 feet.
Oh, easily. But that isn't what I mean. Look at the side of it. That cross.
Yes, I see it. Why, it runs the entire length of the mountain. The stem must be a crevice.
And the cross piece up near the top is another crevice.
Just imagine, a gigantic cross over 10,000 feet high. Why, it's...
Wait. Look. Here is the foot of the cross. What does this look like?
Look like? Why, it's gold. This is literally a cross of gold.
The geologists stood at the foot of the great cross, awed by its mighty size. Perhaps they felt something of the intangible majesty of the unknown as they gazed at this masterpiece of nature. They reported the discovery of the mountain and also of the gold to be found there. Then, in 1879, two prospectors named Farley and Smith staked out a claim at the foot of the cross.
Hey, Smith! Smith! Come here!
Yeah? What's the matter, Farley?
Say, this place has got enough gold in it to set us up for life and then some. Look at it.
Yeah. Say, I've been a-wondering about the stories we hear about this place. Some folks say it's sacred or something like that.
Sure, I heard them too, but gold ain't sacred. And there's plenty of it here for the taking. Oh, come on now, pitch in, give me a hand. We'll clear the rubble away and then start digging in earnest. Why, this whole cross is filled with gold. Come on.
But did they get a chance to get the gold out? Suddenly, Smith and Farley fell ill of a mysterious malady which the doctor could not diagnose. Unable to work their claim, the prospectors hired two men, Johnson and Olson, to dig the claim for them. Then, one day, the two hired men were out on a little lake, rowing.
Hey, we better get back to land. Looks like this storm is coming up faster than we thought. Look out, Olsen! The boat! It's out!
Both men were drowned in the sudden squall that overturned their tiny boat. Farley and Smith went back to working their claim, back to the business of taking the precious ore from the cross of gold on the mountainside. Then, one day, while they were at their cabin...
How much we get out today, Farley? Hey, what are you watching out the window?
I don't know. Thought I saw something moving in the brush over there. Smith! Indians! Oh! Farley! Farley!
Farley was killed. Smith escaped and went to Australia. Even going to another country didn't save him from the weird curse of doom that hung over him, for he was killed in a mine explosion. In succeeding years, the cross brought tragedy, disaster, or death to every man who scoured its sides in search of gold. Then, on July 8, 1929, the Mount of the Holy Cross in Colorado was made a national monument of the United States. The glittering yellow metal lies in the cross protected from men. Or perhaps men are protected from it. Who knows? And now for the musical portion of this Can You Imagine That? I wonder how many of you remember that famous old song, Under the Bamboo Tree. Of course you do. It's an exceedingly hard song to forget once you hear its catchy tune, the lively, sparkling lyrics, and the toe-tingling swing of its rhythm. But if you remember the song, I wonder if you remember the story of how it was written. Just in case you don't, here it is. It was written, you may recall, by two gifted Negroes, Bob Cole and Rosamond Johnson. But how? Well, it seems that Cole and Johnson were walking uptown one evening in New York. Johnson was humming as Bob Cole turned to him and spoke.
Hey, Rosamond, that's the song we need for our new act.
Nobody knows the trouble, I see. Oh, no, you don't, Bob. We're not going to desecrate a sacred song that way. We simply can't use it in our act. It's more than just a song to me, Bob. Somehow it typifies our whole race.
Oh, I know that, but listen to me. You went to the Boston Conservatory, didn't you?
Well, what's that got to do with a new song for our act?
Oh, a whole lot. Why, you should be able to take that song and change the melody a little and set the rhythm up a little and have a new song.
Well, I'll try it. Yep, I'll try it.
Good.
Inspired by the grand old spiritual, Rosamond Johnson set to work on the melody for a new song. Finally, he finished it. Its first title was If You Lack a Me, but when Cole and Johnson presented it to a music publisher, it was suggested that the title be changed to Under the Bamboo Tree. Then the two sang it for Miss Marie Cahill, who liked it instantly. But when she insisted that it be incorporated into the show Nancy Brown, another snag was hit, for, said the composer of Nancy Brown,
What? Put that in my show? Never, never. I'll not have my score ruined by that. Well, I refuse to call it a song.
But the lively Miss Cahill, who knew a hit when she heard it, calmly put her dainty foot down and said the song went in, or she went out. The song went in. And so out of the past, out of a race in whom music and love of it is born, came Under the Bamboo Tree.
Down in the jungles lived a maid of royal blood or dusky shade. A marked impression once she made upon a Zulu from Matabulu.
And every morning he would be down underneath the bamboo tree, awaiting there he'd love to see, and then to her he'd sing.
and we like both the same. I like to say this very day, I like to change your name. 'Cause I love you and love you too, and if you love me, one live as two, two live as one, under the bamboo tree. And in this simple jungle way, he wooed the maiden every day by singing what he had to say. One day he seized her and gently squeezed her.
And then beneath the bamboo green, he begged her to become his queen. The dusky maiden blushed unseen and joined him in his song.
If you like me like I like you, and we like both the same, I like to say this very day, I like to change your name. 'Cause I love you and love you too, and if you love me, one live as two, two live as one, under the bamboo tree.
Well, now it's time to turn you back to your own announcer, and until we get together again for another session of Can You Imagine That, this is Lindsay McCary saying goodbye now.